House with Dee. In my last video, I shared with you how to create a face mask that healthcare workers could wear on top of their N95 mask to prevent droplets and other contaminants. Several people have asked me if I would tweak that pattern to make a pocket in the back of some sort to put a filter inside. Now, please do your research before you try this. You decide, you research on fabrics that are good, filters that are good, but this pattern that I'm going to be making could work with any type of fabric that you choose, also any type of filter fabric that you choose. There's so many opinions out there, so many options, but please, please, please do your research and then join me in making this mask. Let's take a look at the mask we're going to be creating. So it should look like this, with a pocket in the back to put in your filter. Okay. These are the pieces of fabric that you should start with. After you cut out the pattern, you should have two pieces that are like this. Just join the arrows together and tape them in place, or just lay them on your fabric together. So you should end up with two 40-inch pieces that you've cut on the fold. If you didn't cut on the fold, then you just join them together right there. You should have two side bindings like that, which is 3/4 inch long and 1.5 inches wide. One cut on fold. Right away you should mark where the top is. So right there I'm going to mark, or you can just do little slits in the fabric to show what the top is. So one of these, I also have the measurements right here on your pattern that you printed out. And then you should have two of the back where we're going to create the pocket. And on this one, you're also going to mark the top. Just so you know later, like, what the top is. It is a little bit different measurement, so you could tell without the marks, but just an easy, quicker way to show what the top is. And then the last piece you're gonna have is your filter. And you're gonna cut that the same as you would your front piece. And I'll show you later how to trim it for the 1/4 inch seam allowance. All right, let's get started. So we're going to start with our two pieces for the pocket. Here it says fold on dotted line, so we're going to fold it right there. If you look closely, there's kind of like a little V right there, and that's where you fold it, right on the center of that V. First, we're going to create a hem, so you're going to fold down 1/8, maybe 1/4, and then fold it over on the dotted line. Fold over, really small hem. And then fold on dotted line, which is right in that V. So what you're creating is just a hem, so we can hem it together and make that pocket opening. Here we go. So little hem and then fold over and press again. And we're going to sew right along that edge as close as possible. So you can either put pins along here to keep your fabric in place, but because you pressed it, you could be able to just put it right under your machine. So as close to the edge as you can. Do the same thing with the other one. So your pattern, you're going to look at the fabric that has the fold and you're going to mark your darts. One dart on the top, one dart on the bottom. That's that little ladder type sketch that I made. So turn your fabric inside out. So right sides together and put it down on your pattern. And just mark your darts. Either mark it with marking with a pin, or just take your pen and mark where your darts are on the wrong side of the fabric. Just like that. So now you're going to sew the dart from the mark you made to the end. That's your dart. The bottom. So this creates a good, nice fold for the mouth and the chin. Go, so it should look like that. So that way you've created kind of like a cup shaped. Take the piece that you just made the darts in, lay down with the right side down. Take your back pieces, match the top with the top, and lay down directly on the mask. Doesn't matter which side goes over which, whichever you like. Doesn't really matter. And then pin in place all the way around. So I start with the sides first. Okay, just a few pins, just to help the fabric stay in place. Okay, so the one that's in under, you pin that one first. Folding your dart whichever way you want it to go. I usually do one way, one the other, but again, it doesn't matter. Just like that, and then lay down your other side. And you just do that with the bottom, underside first. So that just make sure that it lays flat. So again, your dart, you can fold it whichever way you like. And then the same thing with this side. Again, make sure it's flat with the sides and together. Anything that's extra out over, we'll just trim off before we put the binding on. Okay, so just like that. So pins all the way around, your pockets right there, and we're gonna put a 1/4 inch stitch all the way around, seam allowance, to hold it all in place. Take our pins out. And so you should have 2 pieces together. This is the front, and here's your pocket to put the filter inside. We are ready for the pleats on the side. So we're going to put 3 pleats on each side here. Each pleat is going to be a 1/4 inch wide. Until you make this 3 inches, 3/4 inches to fit this binding that we've cut to put on the side. So I start with making a pleat at the top, and one at the bottom. Your pleats are going to be going up because this pocket should be facing you while you're making your pleats. So when you turn it around, your pleats are going down. So after I do the top and the bottom pleat, it's perfect to make one pleat in the center. And these should come out to the length of that binding, the side binding. Just like that. So we'll trim any extra excess fabric that's left over. So you flip it over, do the same thing with this side. I try to match that side as best that I can. So I do the top, the bottom. So just kind of eye it to see where your pleats are. There we go. Third pleat. Pleat as in you're just folding the fabric together. So you're just folding up a quarter of an inch, folding up quarter of an inch. So then I compare both sides to make sure they're the same or as close as we can. Perfect. All right. So then you turn your mask over so that the darts are facing you. So this is the outside. And this is the side you put on your binding. Okay, so with pins in, you're gonna sew right over your pleats, putting on your binding. So quarter of an inch. You can here's where you either pin in place if you feel more comfortable with pins, or just put it under the machine and sew a quarter of an inch down. So it should look like this on the outside. 3 pleats down and your side binding. Do the same thing with the other side. And again, if you were going to pin this in place, just take a pin, top, and bottom, just to hold your binding in place. If you feel better doing that. Or clips if you have them. Quarter inch seam allowance right over those pleats. All right, we're going to take this to the iron and we're going to press what we just sewed, and also we're going to press the pleats across the top. All right, so we're going to start pressing. Press right over that stitch you just made. Pleats. I'm going to fold down the side, quarter inch on your side of your binding. Fold up, cover the thread that you just made. So from now on in, it's exactly the same as the previous video that I showed. So if you watched the previous video, everything's the same from here on in, other than inserting the filter. So we've created both bindings on each side. And you're just going to sew close to the edge to cover that stitch that you made. So for the pleats, you don't have to make the pleats in your mask, but I just like how it looks. So put your pocket side up so you know you're grabbing that fabric, and just kind of fold slowly, grabbing all the fabric, and make your 3 pleats and just press down. And again, you're working with a couple pieces of fabric, so it's just gonna take a minute, but you can do it. Just kind of fold, shimmy, fold until you get all those 3 pleats made. So your mask should be looking something like this after you put the pleats in. This is where you're gonna put this under your machine. Fold down the binding you just made, fold it over the thread that's already there from where you sewed it together, and put it right under your machine. If you have anything out over at this point, just cut off anything extra and then sew it right along the edge as close as you can. So you've created a binding. Take your 40-inch strap, find the center piece, match it with your dart. I usually put one pin in the center and then just start sewing, hold it to the end. 1/4 inch all the way down across the top and bottom of the mask. Trim off anything that's extra, or you can see that's sticking up over. Do the same thing with the bottom. Find your center of your, this has a fold, so it's nice to see. If you've joined two 20-inch pieces together, you're gonna have your seam there, so that's a lot easier to find the center. So pin, and then just sew right down. 1/4 inch. Just like that. So just press down what you just sewed just to make it nice and flat. The two sides that you sewed together on the mask. So press those down. It'll just make it easier to press the binding when you do. So flip it over, lay it all down straight, flat, and then you're gonna press up 1/4 inch all the way around. I do both ends for all ends first. So press up 1/4 inch. Press down 1/4 inch. Up, down. Alright. Press down. So you just do all your ends first. And then I always do the sides that are touching the mask first. Might not make a difference, but this is just what I do. And again, this pattern is just what I find works for me. And if you find different ways of doing it with the same outcome, by all means, do it your way. Sometimes your way is just quicker to use, so whatever works. As long as you come up with the same outcome. Press down. I'm gonna do that all the way around. And then we're gonna fold this side in, 1/4 inch again, all the way. Just like that. Fold in this side 1/4 inch. And then we're going to bring both sides of the straps together, and we will press in place to make that binding. So bring both ends together, both sides together, and press as close together as you can. And we're going to sew right along that edge, as close to the edge as we can. So it looks like it's going to end up to be like a 1/2 inch binding all the way across the top and bottom of the mask, and just press both straps the same, keeping them close together. Like so. And same with the other side. So I'm basically just folding it in half. And then in the center where the mask is, I'm just making sure it's up over the thread that I see, where we sewed on the binding. Just like that. Almost there. All done. So we're just gonna sew these two together and your straps will be done. Okay, we're almost there. You've got your binding sewn on. Now you're gonna take your twist tie. Gonna find your top, the top of the part where the nose is. Make sure pleats are going down. And you're gonna insert this right in the center. Find your center. And if you open up your binding, you'll see just an opening about a 1/2 inch, kind of where you've pleated it. So just put it right there and sew that on. I'm just gonna zigzag it all the way across. So if you wanna make sure you know where the center is, just fold your twist tie in half. That'll be your center. And put that right on where the dart is. I'm just gonna hold it in place. If you feel like you should pin it, by all means, go ahead. And so I'm zigzagging. I'm sure if you find a different way that will work, that's fine. Zigzag just holds it in place better. Find your right stitch width to be able to get, there we go, to be able to get the needle going through the fabric of the twist tie. And just zigzag all the way across to hold that twist tie in place. Let me show you what it should look like. So now the mask is going to form perfectly to your nose. It's crazy what you can do with things that you have in your kitchen already. So there's the twist tie, just zigzag all the way down. And now you're just going to continue, just like you did for the side bindings, fold over and start sewing them together. And you'll be done. So for quick reference, I lay it down on my table with the pocket side up and the strap closest to me I put under the machine so that the fold, this opening that I'm sewing together, is away from me. Again, do it your way, but this just works for me. Make sure your machine is back to the straight stitch. I've done that 1,000 times. Back stitch, and then pivot and turn all the way. And sew all the way down the strap, getting as close to the edge as you can while grabbing both pieces of that binding. And again, this is just like the previous video. At the end and back stitch to close off the end. Like so. Cut your threads. Oh, it looks beautiful. So you see your zigzag on the inside that you made, but now you've sewn it all together. Now we're going to do the same with the other side. Pocket side up. Strap away from you, the opening, back stitch, pivot, and sew as close to the edge all the way down again. back stitch to close out the end. Great job. All right, so your top and bottom is done. And you have the nose twist tie to form around your nose. Okay, now let's put the filter inside. So like I said, I've done some research on what filter I'm going to use in my mask. And again, please do your research to find what works best for you. There's so many options out there, so many different opinions, but do your research and do what you feel is the best filter to put inside that mask. There are many different options for a filter. And there's also different levels of protection. So it's 1500. I've also ordered a 2800 that's on its way. So what you do is we take this all apart. It kind of unfolds like an accordion, so you're going to get lots of filters out of one of these. Now you take your filter. This is the top because you can see it's smaller in the top. You have to keep in mind that you made a 1/4 inch seam in your mask. So you've got to quickly snip that off. Okay, after you've done your seam allowance, you're going to do the darts the same way as you did in find your top. Do the darts the exact same as the pattern for the top piece. Dart. And again, if you don't have, it depends on what type of filter you're using. If you're just using a surgical mask, just slip it right inside that this pocket. But because I'm using an actual filter paper, so see that? So I've made my pleats. Just make sure you put the darts in because it'll be just too much fabric if you don't. And then find your top and then put it right inside of your mask. Just take a minute and push it out in each corner just to make it fit good, and then do your other side. So again, if you're using a different type of mask, or sorry, filter, you may not have to do those darts, but because I'm doing it with a fabric, filter fabric, you have to make those darts to fit it in there good. Okay, there we go. And the filter's in. So because I like the neatness of the pleats, I'm going to take this over to my iron and just work with the pleats that I have already created and fold down that filter inside and just make a nice pleat to make it look nice. So the pleats are all done on the outside after the filter goes in, and again, that's totally up to you. I just do that. Completed. Find the top. This is where you fold it over your nose. I'm going to put this on. Tie it around the back of your head as tight as you want it. Fold it around your nose, then your back. Tie it as tight as you can stand it. The point is to keep yourself protected. Love how that fits. You're good to go. So I hope I've helped in some way to show you how to make these masks for our healthcare professionals who are in desperate need. I try to be super detailed for those who have never sewn before, or if you've had that sewing machine just collecting dust. I hope you will dust it off, watch the video, and sew these. But make sure you contact your local hospital or clinics just to set up a drop-off. Make sure you like this video, share this video. Make sure you comment if you have any questions. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Thanks again for visiting This House with Dee.